Intellectually engaging to think outside the lines with conversation about the nation that never leaves you blind. Take a listen and pay attention. Here is where you find the educational, sensational meeting of the minds. Yeah, it's the meeting of the minds. Meeting of the minds.
Welcome to Meeting of the Minds. I am so glad to be here with some good friends, faithful Meeting of the Mind goers. Some of you have been a part of Meeting of the Minds for so long, and I'm so glad to finally have you on the show from launching onto TV. So first of all, I have Jules here with me, poet and activist extraordinaire. She comes and gets involved in things that I'm doing and future things that I will be doing. So I'm so glad to have you on the show today, Jules.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. And we have also Renee Sims. Renee received an award, we both received on the same night, Women of the Year award, and I just kept her ever since. We're friends for life now. They actually had us do a just upon meeting one another, we had to do a blindfold test to learn how to trust each other. So we're like bonded for life because we had heels on. I think she had heels on. I had a huge puffy dress, and this is during the award ceremony. It was a thing that they did. So I'm in this huge dress. She's in Megatron heels, and we're blindfolded, having to lead the way. So we're pretty much like forever. Yeah, like it's just trust, right? And we had to walk upstairs. Yeah, long story. Okay. Exciting. So Renee Sims, everybody, thank you for joining us, Renee.
Thank you.
And also a really good friend of mine, Michael Leonard. You've been with us since like the onset of Meeting of the Minds. I mean, like the beginnings. We've been doing Meeting of the Minds for 6 to 7 years, and almost the beginning at the barbershop type thing. I think you were with us.
I was there at the barbershop.
Wow, so long time. And also he's been a part of several business ventures with me as well. So I'm really glad to have you today with us too.
Thank you.
And Jules, you've been how many years were you part of Meeting of the Minds before we came to TV?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been doing this strong for a while, right? And so I'm excited. We get to have some of the founding people that were a part of the meeting here with us, and also my trust sister in the game. So I'm excited. This is good. We're doing a weird topic. I thought this was a topic that everybody would understand, but when I launched it on Facebook and we were looking to recruit people for the show, people were like, what are you talking about? So the topic today is fence riding. And when I said the topic is fence riding, everybody was like, what is that? What is that? What is that? And I was so intrigued that people didn't know what we were talking about. I think in the spiritual, Christian, monotheistic world, fence riding is a common term, actually, riding the fence, right? Yeah. And but so many people were like, what is that? What is that? Even my brain manager, Kai, she's like, can you explain further, please? And so, and I'm glad she did that because I'm sure there were so many other people talking to them. I found out a lot of people don't know what that is. So when going around, starting with you, Jules, when I say fence riding, what comes to your mind?
Refusal to take a side one way or the other on a topic. Teeter-tottering on it, to not look bad either way. Sometimes I think it's done because you don't have all the facts yet, and at that point, if you're still in research mode, that's one thing. But once all the facts are plain and clear and present, then people who choose to do that just don't want to be seen in a bad light by anybody by choosing a side and end up being on the wrong side of history, as people so often are.
Ew, excellent answer. I don't know, Renee, you want to add anything to
fucking
that?
top that. No, I agree with many of the things that she states. I also think that fence riding is not just, I have the facts now and I can make a decision, so you were stuck in research mode. It's, I don't want to make a decision, because if I make the wrong decision, then I have to live with, some people don't want to live with the fact that they made the bad decision. They want to be right all the time, which none of us are. They're stuck in this cycle of, I don't know what to do. If I say, and maybe it's one of those where it is the situation that you're in, some people don't ever want to jump on one side of the fence, but in one other part of their world, they're very, very, very decisive. So I think everything she said is right, but some people just take it to different parts of their lives and may do different things. I know that I can live a life as a fence rider. My name is Renee, and I can be a fence rider.
Well, that's transparency, and I love that. That's fairness, you know. So that helps us dig deeper. Thank you for being transparent about that, Mike. What do you think? Fence riding. Talk to me.
For me, I feel like today we see more people who are more apt to being on both sides of the fence and trying to navigate that middle ground. Like what's going on with the with the NFL right now, you see a lot of owners that's like, okay, our backs are against the wall. We have to do something, but at the same time, we don't want to do nothing, you know. So they're trying to appease both sides, but it's a double-minded approach because they're like, we have to protect our interests, but we can't lose out our integrity or what we stand for internally when it comes down to like players and stuff like that. But even in day-to-day life, people have that same duality where they have to figure out where they stand, you know. And some people make no choice at all, and I think it's a problem. But you know, it's that's where my understanding of fence riding is that, you know.
Nice. Gosh, there's two separate ways I want to go with it, and I guess my spidey senses are leading me to go the way that I don't want to go yet. Like in my mind, this was supposed to be at the end, but it's pushing to come forward now, so fine. Do you think that recently we see a phenomenon happening on social media, right? That a situation will explode or something will manifest, a topic, a story will happen, and it looks one way, and then all of a sudden it'll switch veins completely. And then people who thought one thing are now looking stupid, right? And it's happened consistently. You're having so many different scenarios where something will rise. It'll produce so much emotional response, right? And then got him, right? It's like got him, right? And it's a totally different thing. I almost feel like I'm a poet. I'm prone to conspiracy theories, okay? And I believe in psychological warfare. There is something called psyops, literally. And if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. But and so there's a part of me that says whatever is causing this to happen, it is going to create people more fence riders. Because now I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to trust. And I don't want to put myself out there saying this is wrong because I don't know all the facts, right? And so I almost feel like it's going to shut a lot more people up. This thing, it's almost like strategic, you know? What do you think about that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think it is that way? I think
because most of social media is fabricated, that it's easier to create something that doesn't exist for the sole purpose of getting a reaction, but the truth to be something totally different, you know, like what they were dealing with a couple of weeks ago or a week ago with Camp Newton and him saying what he said about that female reporter, and you know, the internet and the people that are invested in that type of stuff went left. But then when people did research into her own background, you know, they're like, well, how can you be offended to that when you yourself are not perfect? And now, you know, you see the tide go from one end to the next, and it goes back and forth like that. So now you have people who are sitting back like, well, I'm not going to say nothing now. You know, I'm just going to wait till things air themselves out. But the problem with that is that where do you stand? You know, should he be allowed to say what he say without reaction, or should you just not be that sensitive? You know,
the Dove commercial, right?
Yeah, the Dove commercial is another one.
It's huge.
Yeah,
and people were like upset. But this is why I almost think that it's intentional.
I do think
How do you apologize for something that you knew?
You don't. You stand
because
on,
Dove was like, we apologize for the insensitivity, and then right after it backdoored with new images, right, that kind of paint a different picture, and I'm like, this seems fishy to me, like this seems weird.
But any press is, bad press is still press, so you know they boosted their marketing strategy, they boosted their numbers regardless, and I definitely believe it's all mass media manipulation. And we've had enough conversations throughout the years of meetings of Mindz that you know that I don't tend to provide defense on many things until once I have the facts.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of research, and I want to make sure that I'm checking my sources and my resources and making sure that I'm not just pulling things off of, social media sites where it's subject to be whatever. And I definitely, anybody who studies our political climate and agendas and actually reads into our laws knows about the Smith-Mundt Act. And when they let that renew as the new act, and our government stated, if one person on U.S. soil can be affected, that it's fine for our government to use propaganda against us in the United States on our own soil. And look at how many of these different we've got all of these news stations, but who are they owned by? They're all owned by the same small, very small group of people. And so no matter where your news sources are coming from, you've got to be willing to dig deeper. And you've got to be willing, and you're right. I mean, they come out with one thing, and it's ad hominem attacks. They go against people on an emotional level. They get people into an emotional mindset, and they walk away from logic altogether.
Go ahead, jump in.
Excuse me. I had a lot of discussion at home about the Cam Newton thing, and it was interesting because I was like, I don't want to listen to this radio station. We have to change the station. It's funny that comes up, but the statement was, he wasn't saying it to be offensive. For him, just hearing a woman talk about running, what do they call
routes
routes
like
is just interesting. The same way I'd be like, oh my God, you're going to go to the store and shop for a bra with me? Wow, that's interesting. It's the people that chose to glom onto that and turn that into something. I don't remember, and I apologize for not being more, that I didn't research this more. Did she ever make a statement about
She had made some tweets that were about, I think it was about black people or something like that. But they just wasn't, they didn't look, they didn't make her look
I'm talking
good.
about in regards to him making that statement about the routes.
Yeah,
Did she make any?
She had made some kind of response towards him, being offended.
Okay.
But other people stood
but
up
other
before
people,
her.
Right.
And
She
said
was
something.
that small woman. And then there was all this conversation, I know that from the news people that were talking about, well, you sounded like she was reading it from a card, all these different things. And it does seem like she wasn't as offended as they wanted for her to be, so therefore they had to do more to it, to make it a bigger thing. But I want to go back years back when we were talking about, do you believe it or do you not believe it? Do you guys remember the case where the off-duty police officer said someone was breaking into his home, and the next thing you know, he's shot and he's killed? And the entire city was like, oh my God, I don't believe that. I've been living in this neighborhood for forever. We never have these type of things happen, and how dare they have to find this person. There's this witch hunt out for whomever this person is, that they shot this guy. And I was like, something doesn't seem right. He called in right before. Yeah, well, I don't believe, Renee, that you don't have an opinion. That I don't know. Isn't something I don't know enough. I don't know. He's off duty and he just happens to call back and get on duty, and then 5 minutes later he's shot dead. And are we sure that's what happens? And then what happens? A week or two later? Oh, backwards. My friend lives out there, and he's one of the people. I've been living here forever. This never happens. I'm like, are you sure about that? So what was it? 2 weeks later, it comes back that he killed himself for the insurance money or whatever, because they were having problems and they were going into bankruptcy or something like that.
How do you kill yourself for insurance money?
Because he called in and he
called
said
in.
he said that there was
But
someone.
was the insurance money for his family?
I'm assuming so.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
because you can't spend that once you're dead.
But I mean, but all Austin was, oh my God, I don't believe this. And then where are these things that you have to say now? Where are these things that you were so against these people coming into your great perfect neighborhood? Where are these things now? No one, and then as soon as it is that it started, as soon as they find out the truth and they all sound stupid, it's gone. So I think those things also lead to not wanting to say things, because it was real. It really did happen. It wasn't that you were reading it in Wikipedia. You weren't reading it, on Facebook or a tweet or on Twitter. This happened right here in Austin, and now people are like, I don't really want to say anything about anything because I don't know, because it was really in their face and they really got shut down because they were really wrong about what they really thought was real.
And it was a real firestorm after that. They were really trying to find who would break into a police officer's house and kill him. I remember that. And you know who they was targeting.
Oh, yeah.
From the jump. And it was upsetting because, like you said, a week or two later, when they did a full investigation, they found out that he shot himself. I remember that. And it's happened before. People cry wolf all the time in this country. go back as far as you want. They used to print newspapers that said, if you let black people drink or do this and that, they're going to go crazy and go raping everybody. So it's really the media has been practicing these things for a long time, but when it comes down to us standing in our own truths, you have to choose a side.
You do.
You have to come to the reality that, okay, am I going to listen and pay attention to everything that comes on the news and take it as fact, or am I going to do research?
But how far do you go back for research? Do we have to go back to microfiche?
So
I'm
You know what I mean? Because it's all, if you think about it, if it's all really
rabbit hole
been,
goals.
but if it's all been built up from the beginning, right? Then that means that what we're researching is going to be biased, right? So I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. One thing is that okay, we'll give it to those situations where you need to dig deeper to be on the fence. Okay, we'll chalk it to that. But one thing I want us to delve in a little bit deeper is about those situations where you know where you stand about it. Let's say, even for example, let's say I love God and I know I love God, but I don't want to ruffle anyone else's feathers, so I'm not going to mention that I love God. Or let's say, for example, I know this is wrong. I know what they did to Kaepernick is wrong, but I don't want to get involved in no mess, so I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get fired from my job. I don't want these white folks to look at me different. I don't want... No offense, Jules, you know what I'm talking about.
But I feel the same way.
Okay.
And I think that the job thing now, because of social media, I think the job thing is one of the big things that puts people where they just keep their mouth shut about issues now. And that complacency is acceptance of whatever the issue is, if you're not willing to speak out. And unfortunately, I know that we live in a world where there are times that, although my voice is not the one that needs to be heard, because of the color of my skin, mine will be the only one that certain audiences will listen to. And that gives me a responsibility to stand up for the things that I believe are wrong. That's why I'm as vocal as I am about race issues. It's why I'm as vocal as I am about a lot of things, because I know that our world is not equal. It is not fair. And if lending my voice will help to level that playing field, then I'm in for it. I don't ever want the people who I'm trying to stand up for to feel like I'm trying to take center stage or that I'm trying to make anything. It's a very delicate balance to walk, and there is a tightrope there that you have to walk as someone who's trying to stand up for a group that you're not a part of. But I feel those things are wrong, and it's incumbent upon me to stand up.
It's good stuff.
Yes. Yes, and yes. I believe that when we're talking about, I always feel so wrong when I say white people. I don't know why I'm saying white people. Shh. When it comes to non-minorities wanting to get involved in minority problems, there's this way that we have, then why is she here helping us? How do we know that we can trust her, right? So then you have to try 5 times as hard to try to win the trust of the people that you're truly trying to help. We're like, I don't know about all that, because do you see the way she looked at me shifty-eyed when she did? Because those are all of our own internal things that we're dealing with, that we're somehow putting out on you for whatever reason. Maybe it was, we have family histories of things happening.
A lifetime and generations
No,
of
those things have nothing to do with anything. But that doesn't mean that happened to me. And I understand that that it has happened. But that when my dealing with you, I am okay. Listen, Mike, I know that it is that you're not comfortable with black people, but Jules is real cool, right? Can you just lower your guard for just a second so you can at least hear what she has to say? Just give her an opportunity. There's not a lot of that going on. And if there is, I haven't been privy to it. There's not a lot of. Let's just build the trust first and move into, whatever. Don't just stay hating her. Don't just stay hating them. Don't just stay. If you want to fix it, you have to fix it, and you start fixing it by starting. Right. No matter what it is that's happening, you have to start it. The whole lending your voice things, absolutely. I can't speak on necessarily any platform in regards to ethnicity to try to help someone, but I do know that because I am older, that younger people tend to listen, right? So have you seen that commercial with the ladies that I'm commercial, but sorry. Well, she's in school and the guy's standing up in in the lecture hall and he's asking these questions. The professor's like, "Thank you, Mr. Blah blah blah. Please sit down." And she sees that he still doesn't get it, and so then she's the older student in the lecture hall, and then she stands up and continues to ask these questions on his behalf. That's the kind of person that it is that I know that I am and that I can do for something, because I'm just another black person in a sea of black people that's trying to get you to understand that my black life matters just as much as his life matters, just as much as your life matters, and just as much as your life matters. But so I'm invisible there. Mm-hmm. But with children, where you can start making that difference, I can at least help to plant the seed there. So that's where my voice can be heard in that. And I'm sorry if I got
No. You remember, I also do a writing lab called Spoken Scribes. Plug. at Swamp Daddies on Rosewood. Plug. Right? And so you were there when I wrote this piece about being neutral and not picking a side.
Absolutely.
And this is exactly what that is about, you know? And you saw how I felt about that.
Absolutely.
I actually... one time I was hanging out with this guy and he was like, "I'd rather take the neutral route." And I was like, he was like, "I think the best position is neutrality." I said, "I think the weakest position is neutrality." And it was like a semi-date, so it's pretty much over after that, right? So, but I meant it with all the venom that I was like, neutrality is the weakest position. And you posted something on that post that we had wrote, and It was along the lines of, I'm going to let you say what it was, but it was almost along the lines of, and y'all have probably heard this quote, "The hottest place in hell is reserved for a neutral mofo."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And mofo could stand for numerous things. It doesn't have to be what you're thinking about, but I always have to say stuff like that for religious people that are like sitting there having a conniption. Nevertheless.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that as fence riding too, as what I said, and equating that. But we'll get to that in just a second. What did the quote say exactly?
I don't know word for word, but it basically goes to the extent of saying that if in times of adversity or something like that, being neutral is basically not an option. We'll post it on the MOT site or webpage.
Suckers.
Yeah, because it's like surrendering, kinda. You know what I mean? It's like you want to see who's gonna win before you decide who. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like with the Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fight. People were standing on their ground. McGregor gonna win. But if you the one who you say you went to Vegas and made the bet, but you put $100 on McGregor and then you put $100 on Mayweather, you didn't really pick a winner. You just hoping that one of these guys wins so you can make maybe a little bit of money, but you're gonna break even anyway because you didn't pick a side. And what y'all were talking about earlier I don't really see that as fence riding or being on the fence when y'all were explaining how sometimes you got to wait for information before you decide.
No,
that's more so just waiting for the smoke to clear before
I'm talking about after.
Oh,
after I still have the facts. I'm like, but what if that one fact wasn't really
and
right?
And that's what's being fostered.
Yeah.
That is what is being created. And that's what makes me think that it is imperative for people to get their spidey senses up and their spiritual discernment up. Yeah. Because when you're walking in a spiritual discernment, sometimes you see what is not being said. Sometimes I can't explain it. It's like I'm Samson Simpson. I stick by my story. If you don't know what movie I'm referencing, this but what I'm saying is, it's like when I go off of when I'm led. It's if I go off of when I'm being led to say something, it doesn't become changeable. Right. Like it's like, nope, I said what I said. You know what I mean? And I love that actually.
One of the things that bothers me is like this city. Right now we're sitting in East Austin, what used to be one of the roughest part of towns, and right across the street here is probably a $500,000 house.
Right.
Right. And you hear all the people that used to be in this neighborhood or people that are descendants of this neighborhood yelling gentrification,
That's right.
but you don't hear nothing from the people who are benefiting from it. They don't see no problem with coming in and destroying stuff and taking over stuff and reestablishing stuff for their own benefit. And when everybody's gone, that's when you're going to hear them say, well, we were here first. Or like that mural that they painted over without even thinking twice that it might mean something to somebody. That was actions that were taken with them standing on their side, but without any body in power saying, hey, this is not right.
Well, actually, Meeting of the Minds had a meeting at Six Square, and we got the business owner to agree to let the artist repaint it again.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah. Plug! Right? But that's so powerful, you know? Because here's the thing. This is the way I look at that. They painted over it because they did put a $3 million house there.
Right.
And so if you're going to sell a $3 million house, you want to make the area pleasing to the eye of people with $3 million money. You know what I mean? And so it is imperative for people to not ride the fence and say, no, this is a historically black district, point blank, period, right? And so fence riding can mess around and get a whole entire community
uprooted and disappeared overnight.
It is. And you know, the thing is that if it's not affecting your group, then it's not affecting you, then it's whatever, but that's not a fair way of living life. And, you know, coming from New Orleans after Katrina hit, I mean, they have gentrified the heck out of, and some areas are still look like a third world country when you drive through of them. In the lower Ninth Ward, I used to work out there, and like you drive through it and it still looks like a third world country. There's still houses that are completely destroyed. There's very few that have been rebuilt. New Orleans East is still a lot of that way. And what they were doing was these builders came in from California and they were doing the same thing they're doing in Austin now. They're coming in and they're buying up blocks and they're turning around and they're putting in these multi-million-dollar homes. And I mean, you start looking at some of these real estate, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a beautiful house. And I'm thinking, even that, you know, $600,000-800,000. No, they want $4 million for it because it's on the east side. You're like, what? But it doesn't affect. It does not affect their demographic, their group, and so they don't. There's no thought even given to that. And you know, there's been a lot of things. Again, my culture is New Orleans. When people ask where I am, who I am, I'm New Orleans. Like I was born and raised there, and that brings a lot of rich diversity of culture with it. And I think that Austin does this whole keep Austin weird and has calls itself the music capital of the world. But coming from where I come from, I don't see that. I see a very segregated, very strictly diverse. You know, there's not a lot of diversity here as far as, you know, different genres of what's allowed, what's not. There is still from the 1920s or 30s when they did the redrawing of the political lines, and they moved all of a certain demographic over to the east side of what later became Interstate 35, which wasn't even interstate at the time. And they drew out the lines and they said, nope, y'all get to live over here, and these are where your schools are going to be.
But we changed our mind and we're taking it back.
Now all of a sudden, all of a sudden we changed our mind. And I keep, you know, when I say gentrification to people, well, what's that? People whose families aren't affected by it, friends aren't, they go, what is that? And I started explaining to them, and it's a whole, I think a lot of the time it can be eye-opening, but at the same time they go...
they have a whole entire different narrative to gentrification. Like, their narrative is, we're helping out, we're making it pretty, we're making it beautiful. We're making a really dingy area beautiful, right?
Like, yeah, but so 5 generations have lived there, and now they can't afford it anymore. Like, what do you mean? So, how is this, like, how is that helpful? You've got people whose family house was passed down 5 generations, and they lost it because taxes.
It's so funny because almost a lot of shows, when we have Meeting of the Minds, it could be any topic in the world, and gentrification will creep up. Because everybody, our minds is are like that. I want to kind of go back to I want to take a visual of the riding of the fence, right? And riding of the fence, you have the right foot, let's say, on one side, and the left foot on that side, and you want to be able to maintain both worlds, right, with the riding of the fence. And so, you know, we've seen that artists, actors, athletes have usually in the past steered clear of major topics to not take a real position, but recently now we see them taking a very precise decision. And what I think that affects, I have had people in that are not in the limelight say, well, I can't talk about that stuff at my job. If I talk about it, I'll get fired. So what makes Kaepernick's so different. I mean, if he talks about he's going to get fired, but that is the point, is that when you say that he has the right to express his upsetness in this way by taking a kneel, right? That it's okay and we support him. If we all do that collectively, then it will trickle down, right, to the point where and so I think when you have an artist, an activist, an athlete willing to not ride the fence and take a very clear-cut position, and then the community supports that decision, it can foster people in the regular community. Because wait a minute, you are in the position of authority or in a position of a platform, and that's what they did for you for taking a position. I'm gonna go ahead and keep my mouth closed on this one, right? And it fosters that feeling of fence riding. Did you have anything you want to add in? No, not something. Yeah.
I wanted to comment a lot on what she
Okay,
has
so
stated,
I'm
but we can
trying-
go back to
yeah,
that.
yeah, 'cause I'm trying to-
But in regards to what you're stating about Kaepernick, I think that many people don't know what to do, because when he truly, really needed their support, they were like, "Oh, forget that Negro." Yeah, I said Negro. Forget him. He's just, and he and this and that, and then, but there was more and more information that was coming out. Oh my God, I don't believe that this is what this song was about. And blah. Well, of course it was, and of course that's who wrote it. And think about where it came from, and of course, but we didn't care until someone else took a stance. That doesn't mean that we don't care. That just means we didn't know. And so now that you know, right? And because I think it took him not being re-signed, right? It took him losing his livelihood and him being like, whatever, people, I'm still going to go out and donate things. I'm still going to go out and help people. I'm still going to go out and do this. And the next season, I'm going to go back out and try to get signed again. I don't really care what you think. And then for everyone to see, oh my God, they're really not going to give that to him. They're picking up people that hadn't been picked up, that had been retired for years over him. It's not really about him taking a knee. That's not really what it is, but it is. It is about him taking a knee. What I have to say about that is this: multiple things. He did what he thought was right. He's fighting for what he believes. He's not disrespecting our country. He's actually doing what it is that these people fought for, right? He's taking advantage of the rights that all these military men and women have been fighting for. Every man in my family has been in the service, right? Every single one of them. I did our, family history thing and World War I. I mean, it's just like, but yet it's not okay. It's not okay. I mean, you're disrespectful. Why? Because he's taking a side. You can't, no matter what it is you do, when you're brown, you're wrong. You're on the wrong side of everything. You're protesting quietly, you're wrong. You're protesting wildly, you're wrong. You're protesting, you're wrong. What's the right way? What's the right way of doing it? It's just enough for those people that want to ride the fence for them to stay comfortable. And when you're not riding the fence, it makes it uncomfortable for you. Not you. It makes it uncomfortable for you, because then, oh my God, I'm putting it out there in your face, and I have to make a decision. I have to be that football team owner that's like, so what was it, the whole thing about Jerry Jones, and if any of my players take a knee, then I'm going to let them go or what have you. I was like, I really hope the whole team takes a knee. I really hope the whole team takes a knee.
He's standing on his beliefs,
Right, but is he really? Fence. So if they all do it, is he really to let go of his whole team?
Let's see.
And the thing is that the team has to be willing to take that opportunity, to take that chance to see. But many of them are sheeple.
Yeah.
One of my favorite statements that I made up was, it takes a really strong person to be an I. And most people aren't willing to stand in that. Most people are willing to stand in we. Because I have a compadre when I fall down. I have a compadre, and your eyes, because those are the ones that aren't going to give you up when one of you gets caught and the other one doesn't. No, I did it.
I feel something really throat bubbling up in my spirit, so I'm going to drop it.
Drop it.
It's funny about gang culture, right? Like, gang culture is like, if the gang is doing that, I might not really agree with it, but I'm rolling with the gang. I'm rolling with the clique, you know what I mean? And if one gets messed with, you just mess with everybody. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I kind of appreciate that kind of mentality a little bit. It's almost like you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And it's almost like we are all in this together. Even like, it's terrible. I'm using this as a reference, but I am, and I'm not sure why, but I am. But there's so many instances where the whole gang is about to go commit a crime, and you don't even want to go, but you roll with the team. And I almost wish that there was just, not to do something bad or negative, but there are plenty of instances where the community of color are going to go do something, and I'm like, I don't even know if this is gonna work, or I don't even know if this is I don't even know if this is gonna work, or if this is a good strategy, but because y'all are in it, I'm in it too with y'all. Right? Or we're protesting this. I really like this spot, but whatever y'all say, I'm in it. And that's being on a side. Moving on to another thing. So one thing that we said, this phrase on the fence riding, is very popular, is in the religious community, right? Whether it be Christian, Islam. We know that we've heard this thrown around. And I've actually been very accused of it. And I'll tell you why I've been accused of it. I have Meeting of the Minds, and as Jules and Mike can tell you, we have had Satanists at Meeting of the Minds. We have had atheists, African spiritualists, agnostics, Buddhists, Muslims, people from the Nation of Islam. I've had all, and although we might not agree, we love each other. Like, I love them, they love me. There's a respect, and so that's the thing. Like, they'll say, oh, you gotta be on the fence about stuff. No, Jules can tell you, I'm very clear cut about what I stand and where I believe. Like, it's no mistake about it. Everybody know I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I have no problem with saying that. The problem is that I think where people try to want to say I'm on the fence is that because they think that because I love everyone and I'm okay to meet you where you are at, that I must be riding the fence in some way. And I don't push myself away or put myself in a box or draw a line like, that's y'all, this is me. Like, a matter of fact, I would rather be among people. I would rather be around a full-blown, I'm sinning and I love it type person than I'm so righteous and I never sin type person.
But I am in the dark.
Right. And I would so much rather that. And so, yeah, I've been accused of that so much so. And I'm like, how much more can you be not on the fence? My family comes from the Islamic Republic of Iran. I have the freaking Star of David and a cross on my right shoulder. If that isn't, like taking a stand, it is printed on my body what I stand for. But where they try to say, oh, you're on the fence, is because I refuse to let anyone under the umbrella of Christianity harm a Muslim, do some wrong to Muslim. At the end of the day, they are my people, and I will not let you trample them, hurt them. I will not let you use your theology, and I will protect them. I will protect gays and lesbians. I will protect anyone that is what we subscribe to is being used to inflict hatred, harm. So then they're like, if I defend a Muslim, or if I defend, or I use words like, I say Allah, mashallah, inshallah. You have a Christian who will be like, she's on the fence. See, she got one foot in both doors. It means God in a language, like in a whole language, that word means God. Whether you're Christian or whether you're Muslim or whether you're Jew, that word means God. And so constantly I've actually faced that accusation that I'm undecided. But this woman knows me well. Yeah.
That to me is from people who haven't taken the time to watch your walk, who haven't taken the time to actually see who you are and observe enough of your walk, because that goes back to, as far back as history goes, tribalism. And if you're not like us, you must be an enemy. And that's not what Christianity in the base of it, and all other religions, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you, love your neighbor, is the base of all true religions. So when you take it to the level that you do, you open your arms in sisterhood to everyone out there and accept them where they stand, where they are, and you're not willing to go along with this tribal concept of you've got to be my way, because that's not reality. Our individuality, our diversity is what makes the human race such a beautiful thing. It's those who are so frightened by the idea of anything other than, that have this fear of anything that's not what they know through and through, what they've been taught, who have a closed mindset where they refuse to open up to concepts and learn about new ideas. Whereas, you come at it and say, this is where I stand, this is what I believe, I definitely love Jesus, and, that's one of the things that you and I have in common. But at the same time, just because somebody doesn't, that's their issue. Like, as long as you're not coming at me sideways about it and attacking me, then we can have open conversation about it out of respect and love all day.
But isn't that why you're supposed to love them more? Is because they don't love Jesus, right? So, because how can I prove to you that that Jesus is the way that you're supposed to be if all I do is meet you with, well, you have whatever it is. There was a person in my life, and she was very much so in love, and I have to say finger quotes, in love with Jesus, because her every single thing about her demeanor, everything was, if you don't live this way, if you're not this way, then you cannot be a Christian. If you don't do these things, if you don't say these things, then you cannot be a Christian. You open yourself up to learning different things about different things. Therefore, because you have taken the time to educate yourself about other religions and other persons and the way that they choose to live, you can wholeheartedly say, I do this, I believe this is where it is that I am. Many people just take their programming, they just go with it. Christianity is not innate. It is something, and this was my problem with this person that used to be in my life, was that I was raised Christian. I was raised Southern Baptist, and there was no, you just did what you were told, you just live that way. You don't question the pastor. That's just what you do. And I was like, I'm 6 years old. Doesn't that sound wrong? Can I say something? Can I ask? Why is it that he gets to do? Why are all these people? I don't understand. Renee just, shh, don't say that. And that was what it was. So when I had this conversation with this person, it was this was my question to her. I said, Christianity, religion, any of it, none of it's innate. It's something that you're taught. If you were born in a different country, Christianity may not even be your religion. It would be something else. The devil. I was like, I don't care what you say.
Oh my gosh.
I don't care what you say. I said, that's really what it is. And people forget that if you were born somewhere else, this world that you believe, this world that you live in, these things that you call yours, they wouldn't even be those things that are yours. They'd be somebody else's. You could find your way there. But that's not how you'd start.
But see, I kind of disagree, because like in my paradigm, everything is saying that, this is the right way, right? And then so through spiritual means, I am being told that this is awesome and this is great, right?
But how old were you when this stuff started?
So about teenager,
okay,
18,
but it wasn't
19,
1 year old. I'm talking about those people that from the time that they've
what
been
I'm
going,
saying is that
they've never thought anything more.
People try to say that, people try to say like the Bible is infallible, right? But so the way that I look at it is the word of God is infallible. So that means truth is infallible, right? But what is man-made, you're going to have, if one translation says this and one translation says this, which one is the infallible one, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, it is truth, the word of God, which is truth, and your spirit knows when it hears truth, right? That is what is infallible, right? And so for me, that will be disclosed through spiritual means regardless. And all that, when I look at the text, I'm looking for purpose, patterns, and strategies, right? But as you said, like not being able to question anything, like what I know is, taste and see, ask and the answer will be given to you, And so definitely, I think that type of approach has disgusted a lot of people away from it, you know?
Absolutely. I know that was part of my issue, but going back to the acceptance of people for them looking different, believing different, that was a topic of conversation that I think, because I knew that person was that way, when I had the opportunity and anything came up, I mean, on this person's wall, there were pictures of people with tattoos and piercings, and these people are of the devil, and you know, why are they? Why do you believe this? Has this person done something to you? Do you have any personal experience with these types of people hurting you or doing things to you or your family members, for you to be able to say blanket, that's what this person
but
is
that's
about?
their issue.
It's completely
that's
their issue. Absolutely.
It's often people who look down on people that have these outward manifestations of what they call sin, are the ones that have the inner manifestations of sin, pride, right? And all these different things. And you mentioned something really awesome. So religious people will do this thing where it's like, if you don't follow all these rules, then you're on the fence. You got one leg over here and one leg over there. But really, your whole entire life, you're going to be working to get something right, right? So let's say that when I first come into the knowledge and revelation of the Most High, right? I still got issues, right? Like, they didn't just magically go away. I've been in these issues for 10 years of my life, and sometimes it does. Sometimes, presto, magico, you change some things. That is very relevant. It does happen. But oftentimes you're going to have to work this thing out. And so now I realize, I have a lying issue. I need to work on the lying issue. Now I finished the lying issue. You know what? I think I, drink a little too much, or I smoke, I smoke, and I need to, work on that thing. And, oh, wait, I just worked that out. Look, what is this? Are you showing me that I have pride? Do I have these feelings of prejudice towards a woman being an authority? Or do I think I'm better than everyone because I'm educated? Like, no matter what, you are going to fall short. And so whenever you fall short, does that mean you're on the fence? I don't think so. So for me, it's very, very clear cut. It's like, I know where I stand and what I believe, that I'm flawed, and I believe in a divine teacher and counselor that is guiding me away. That now that I'm actually a better person, is not going to come down crashing on me trying to catch me riding dirty. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute. When I was really bad, I had this revelation, and now I'm actually halfway decent, and he's like trying to catch me. And no, so I don't believe that. But you have so many people that look at it like that, like, you must be riding the fence because you don't have your life all together. What the heck does all together look like? Show me all together. I'd like to see it all together. What you thinking, Mike? Anything?
I don't know. I think most, and it's probably going to sound kind of harsh, I think most westernized religious
approaches.
Well, just the way church is structured these days, and the way people are when it comes down to spirituality or religion, is very fence riding. To the point of stagnation. Because people won't act. They'll tell you to pray about it, and God will handle it. And so while those people die,
You're like,
while those people get beat on, while those people Michigan right now still don't have water.
Oh, this is
and
mad.
everything else is going on.
And everything else is going on. Still don't have water. You got 58 people who was killed in Las Vegas. There was 50-something people killed in a weekend in Chicago. Still nothing going on. People don't just stay humble, and God gonna take care of it. That's what they reiterate. That's the tidal wave that comes down from the religious sect in Western.
This is a very powerful thing that you just touched on. Like,
so I don't respect
amazing.
it.
But you just think about where it is that they got this thought process from.
They get it from their leaders,
even before our leaders, but even before that, our leaders were our slave owners.
Well, what I'm saying, I'm talking about on the religious end.
I actually disagree with that. Like, the entire book is talking about people of color. Now, just because it's been hijacked doesn't mean,
I'm not talking. I do understand that, but what I'm talking about, the way that it is, that until you take the time to learn it on your own, what you know and what you live is what you were taught. And if you choose to not go
the
outside
manipulative version,
if you choose to not dissect your programming, you will forever repeat the exact same things. Your life is cyclical. The things you state to yourself are cyclical. And if you don't stop and say, I wonder, and I wonder, and I wonder, and I wonder why, then it will always be the same. We stay humble. We kneel and we pray even in the face of all those things happening, because that's what our grandparents taught us to do, and their grandparents taught them to do. And
but it was a reason for that.
There was a reason to that, because you didn't want to get beaten.
Right.
And that's what it is that they told you that you shouldn't have done. However, as we started to move ourselves away, as we were freed from slavery, that doesn't mean that those things automatically like, woohoo, we're free, let's go live another way.
Right.
You have to, the family structure itself has to decide, we're not going to do this anymore. We have to live this way. We have to believe a different way. We have to look at this and learn this in a different way. And if we don't, we're still going to be staying humble and praying, oh my God, she's having a heart attack, let's just pray over her, instead of, oh, maybe somebody should pick up the phone and dial 911.
So this is what you just embarked on, and what you just like pulled the rug back on was phenomenal, and it is used to fence ride to the max, and so what they do is they say stuff like, there's this perception, well, Jesus is coming back anyway, so this just gotta happen, let it do. But can you imagine if Martin Luther King and them was like basically like, Jesus come back anyway, if we got to ride on the back of the bus, no big deal, right? Can you imagine, right? And so Bob Marley has this song, right? And he says, preacher man, don't tell me heaven is on the near. I know you don't know what life is really worth, right? But if you did know what it was worth, you would look for yours on earth, and now you see the light. Stand up for your rights, right? And that's talking about, the European approach to Christianity is that if you don't follow God, you are going to hell. But the reality is that if you are not plugged into God, you are in hell. Right? And so the idea is that heaven, life is so precious that we're not waiting for things to happen later. That we, what does it say? On earth as it is in heaven. Bruh.
Look
Go
at
ahead.
but
y'all about to make me
people are
preach.
always-
We got the cameraman laughing and stuff.
But people are always looking for a leader. People don't want to be the one to be the Copernic, to stand up and be the one who's ostracized and who's condemned and who's shot. They don't want to take that strong position. People have too many internal fears, and so then we have people who look to their leaders, and quite often, because of the way we've been raised, they're looking towards their religious leaders. Well, you and I go to a church where he's pretty free about his thought processes, but he's a small church compared to these big mega serving millions on television with their 501c3 classification, so they're not taxed. And all of a sudden, if they start talking about things that go contrary to, then what happens to their tax?
They lose money and stuff.
They have, there's too many things out there where what are you researching? Where are you researching? Because if you dig deep into it, you will find that there are pastors, preachers, bishops who have come forward and said, they called us into a meeting. Like, my entire district got pulled into this meeting, and they basically told us, like, if you want to keep your tax exempt status, then that topic you've been getting hot and heavy on in your congregation, you need to kind of back off on that a little bit. We don't want them protesting like that. We don't want the monies to be diverged that way. This isn't what. So as long as you want to keep your tax-free status, then
because they can't cross the line between religious and political. And once they do that, then they become a taxable entity.
Well, that's the thing. So I'm going to throw a couple terms out on here. And that was hot fire, Jules. We're about to elaborate on that. So hot fire. Glad you mentioned that. So I'm going to say a couple terms. Military industrial complex. Prison industrial complex. Now check this. Non-profit industrial complex. The minute that this 501c3 status thing came into play, you have literally handicapped, you've literally silenced any nonprofit. So basically, if you want your 501c3 status, you want to be exempt, you want to save that money, you cannot talk about this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, most of our churches that are 501c3 cannot say anything. And this is strategic.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely strategic. You've just made 501c3 people handicap fence riders. You have bogart them into the fence riding situation,
And that in itself breaks the separation of church and state that our Constitution, that our nation was founded on, that the
But
United States of America as we know it was founded on.
There's ways around that, and you can always go underground. I tell people this all the time. If you add up the number of like action, like people who who have the ability to take action in government processes, like agents that goes and do this and this and that, there are few compared to the many. You know what I'm saying? Like if they ever enacted a law that said that they're coming to get your guns, nobody's coming. Nobody wants that dangerous job. Who wants to knock on somebody's door and get shot in the face? You know, it's not going. And they don't have enough agents who are willing to do it. The FBI can only watch so many people, and it's always the ones that are at the top of their list. That's why they always missing something. That's why they always missing somebody. That's why somebody goes under the radar, or they let somebody go under the radar. You know, it's not. They don't have the power that we think that they have. You know, it's a lot of churches that don't pay taxes because they don't file their taxes. You know, not a lot, but you know, there's people out there that just don't do what the government asks them to do.
But churches don't have to file taxes. You
No,
know?
I'm just saying, like, if not churches,
all-
but
and
like,
not all churches
like,
are 501c3.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, not all
more
churches.
better.
Yeah.
All the more
because
better.
because being a church doesn't make you a nonprofit.
Right.
Let me rephrase that statement. Being a church, you are working in that same capacity, but you don't have to file that same paperwork to be able. I could turn my house into a church.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm considered a licensed.
You have to
pastor.
apply for that.
Yeah, I just changed my tax information, and there we go. My house is that. Way to go, right? I can do that, and I don't have to file a 501c3 to do that. But what they do is, you still are not able to have these conversations once, because you're leading people, right? And so therefore you are, all of us together. We're not going to vote for. We're not going to do, and especially the mega churches like you were talking about, when they start doing that with those millions of people, they might only have 50,000 right there with them in that place. But how many people are joining them on TV that are listening to every single thing that it is they do? We're all going to go out and we're going to vote this way. We're going to not vote this way.
Yeah.
And that's why when you start doing that, they're like, sorry, now you're political.
and it's painful. So many people can't hear God for themselves.
No.
So they literally, just because they'll put a well-known preacher on there, stamping like the
Approval.
orange one, or stamp of approval on the orange one, so it must be
true.
How can you not see spiritually?
Because they're
Like,
not
what does it
educated. They're not
take for you
educating
to-
themselves to do so. That's what I'm talking about. You stay with what you learn until you choose to learn something different. If you never live outside, if you never move outside of this box, all you will ever know is what's in this box. I don't care if you're a 99. If you never did anything different. But the part that you're different, you're 0, you're 50. The things about you are different from when you were 0 to 50, right? Things can still be different for you when you're 50 to 99. But we have core beliefs, but these other things on the side that help us in society, many people aren't willing to change those. They're not willing to look beyond. They're not willing to see their truth. They're not willing to do those things. And so therefore, when you stamp approval on, well, Pastor Joe, nobody said I should, so I'm going to go ahead and do it because I never decided to pick up this book. I never decided to read the newspaper. I never went outside to go see what Fanning was talking about that day. I only wanted to live in whatever it is. Because I love my grandma. I love her. I love my auntie. But sometimes that was all they had on TV.
Right.
My person, that was all they had on TV. And so that's all their belief system is. Smart, intelligent people. But when it came to religion and voting, that's all they knew, was because it's all they listened to. That's all they allowed. That's all they allowed to penetrate, was that stuff.
And you made my mind jump to another thing, is riding the fence because you were wrong. So like basically, let's say you stood on something and you found out that you were wrong. Well, now I'm going to play the fence about it. I'm not going to pick a side because I did pick a side and I was wrong about it. And instead of saying, okay, now I'm on this new side, I'm just going to stay fence because I don't want to admit that I'm wrong. But really, none of us should be our allegiance is not to being right. Our allegiance should be to the truth, right? Who said that? I think it might have been Gandhi. Really, I really think it might have been Gandhi. My allegiance is not to being right, it's to being the truth. And so when a new revelation, or let's say you were the type of Christian, which is so difficult for me to believe, but I'm sure you were a Christian that was a Trump supporter, and now information is coming out that you need to take a stand against some of the things that he's doing. I'm just going to ride the fence because I don't want to look bad because I said that I supported him. Okay, but just because you said that you supported him doesn't mean you can say, I frown upon these things that are happening. But instead, no, I'm going to ride the fence because I don't want it to look bad because I had said. And I don't think that we should have an allegiance to being right.
But we're raised that way. I'm sorry, everything for me goes back to our kids. We go back to our childhood. We are raised to be right. There is a right way to tie your shoes. That's why coloring books have lines. You have to color within the lines.
I've never been able to do that.
Everything that we do is all about staying within parameters. There is a right way to hold that spoon. There's a right way to hold that pencil. And when you're not doing that, you're punished, right? So everything is about being right. So when you get older, and again, if it's all about being right, it's all about being perfect. But we're all imperfect, right? But we can't show people that we're imperfect because then we'll be seen as weak, right? We'll be seen as we don't know how to do anything. People don't have, they can't really depend on us, whatever, because we make too many mistakes. But isn't that where you learn to be right?
Right, come on now.
Right? You learn to be right in making the mistakes. You learn to be better in making the mistakes. But that's why it is that people can't do it because they never made the mistakes. So the worst person in the world is a person that always got it right and never failed. And so that person can't fail now by making the wrong decision because they never had to deal with the backlash of being wrong. And if they're wrong now, oh my God, what's going to happen?
But what is going to happen? We don't
wanna
allow
know.
people to be
We
wrong.
don't. And, oh my God, and
they'll crucify. So, Mike, jump in there and say something.
Before you say, can I just finish this last statement? It's like this. It's like when you say something, oh my God, say, I love your brown hair. Girl, did she just say her hair was green? People are going to harp on the fact that I said your hair was green forever because I made that mistake openly, publicly. Oh my God, now everyone knows that I made that mistake. And that's why people don't want to say
And not just that, a show like this, we might make a comment and not say it right. Or we might have said it only this much and somebody thought we meant this, but we didn't get to disclose why we feel that way. We are putting ourselves in the position right now to be crucified by the public, and not just that. Maybe right now I'm a certain age. Maybe my perspective about an issue might be this right now, and then as I grow, my issue might be my perspective might be different. We're not allowing people that opportunity. So people ride the fence out of fear, right? Fear. Say something profound, Mike.
No pressure.
Right?
I think depending on who you are culturally, fear has a factor in it. But for most people who live in who grew up in a certain type of area or certain type of, like I grew up in Philadelphia, so you can't have fear. Fear can't even be part of your genetic makeup because if you're afraid of what's around the corner, something will be around the corner. It's always something around the corner, So if you came up in a place or an environment that was very safe and coddled and you didn't have to venture out and kind of create your own, definition of who you are, if you don't have that knowledge of self to where you can your own strength, then you can't pull a Kaepernick. You won't do it. It won't be in you. All those guys that didn't kneel with him last year, what they doing?
Kneeling.
And what the first reaction of everybody was, look at these clowns. Now they want to kneel because the owners said this or the media said that. But last year when he was talking about police brutality, everybody was rubbing their face like, I don't know, man.
I can't lose my check.
I might be fined. I might lose my job.
But now that they're being directly attacked, some of them, now everybody want to join and it's become clowny, because his message of what it wasn't even a message. It was something that he was doing by himself. He wasn't putting it out there. He wasn't making no T-shirts. He wasn't on nobody's media site talking about it. Somebody noticed what he was doing, and they made a big deal out of it. And now it's a big deal. But the point is that I think people shore themselves up on whatever side of the fence that they are on, or whether they're going to be a fence rider out of fear. You know, if you don't make a decision now, you not, like somebody came to you and said, "Are you for or against police brutality?" And they do this. Well, there's certain situations where no, you a fence rider.
That's right.
You either going to be for it or you're going to be against it. You either going to let these people in uniform do what they're doing without chastisement or anything, and just that's where you're going to stand. You're with them out of default, but you think you're not, because you're riding, you staying on quiet and staying on the sidelines. But at the end of the day, you still on their side, because that's what this whole situation is about. And then on any other situation, if you choose not to say anything or choose not to do anything, you're making a decision. That is still a decision.
Sometimes I think that this entire thing, when I say thing, I mean life, is about making these decisions.
Yes, it is.
Like the entire thing.
How many times are you going to do it till you get it right?
We're here to learn. And if you keep
What
messing
did
up
you
the
make it
outcome-
about? What did you make it about?
If you keep messing up the outcome, then you will keep repeating the test over and over again until you get it right. God's funny like that. He will have you keep repeating, meeting the same type of person, going through the same season over and over again until you finally go, oh wait, maybe it's something that I'm reacting or I'm doing that's not right. And
I'm
the
not
whole thing
learning,
with the taking a knee in the NFL has been hijacked by the media to manipulate what the conversation is about.
Right.
And if you go deeper into it, you see that there was actually a point where he started by just sitting on the bench. And it was 3 or 4 or 5 games in, he just sat on the bench. And nobody said it. All of a sudden, somebody's like, ooh, he sat on the bench. Oh, we're going to take this, we're going to run with it. And then it became a big thing. And then he had to stand up when they asked him about it. He said, I chose to sit because I don't feel like it's right for me to stand for an anthem for a country that doesn't support me, and I don't have me and my people don't have equality in it. At which point it became a blown up. Media started running with it. Well, he switched, from what I've been able to find, he switched from sitting to taking a knee after someone who's actually in the military came to him and said, "Hey, look,
a better option."
Like I'm coming to you openly, and what we do in a military honors funeral is when the flag is presented to the family members, the soldier who does that takes a knee for the fallen. And so what you're trying to protest, this might be a better way to do it, is to take a knee. And he took that stand. And then you've got people who are saying, okay, you got entire teams, and the owners are coming out, and their way of riding the fence is to say, okay, we're going to come out, we're going to show solidarity because we're going to kneel before the anthem.
But we still going to stand.
But we're going to stand for the anthem. But we're going to hand on the heart for the anthem part of it so that we don't offend.
You miss me with that, right?
Yes, I mean, to me, there's no greater fence riding in our media right now going on in
Everybody's
this one
getting what they
particular
want.
issue.
No one's
They
mad.
can say, I
in
stood
your
up.
face
I
fence
took a
riding.
knee. I did what was right for my minority players. I agree with what their plight, and I'm
but not
for
right
them.
now.
But there's
30
also,
seconds in.
and the whole thing of the teams being on the field, that didn't start until 2011, I think, 2009, somewhere up in there. Then the military's paying big money to have these things to promote it. Like, people don't bother to look at the whole. They don't bother to research it. They don't.
You know
bother
why
to study
I think
it.
that they're
They
fighting
just,
so hard is because things are being revealed. Stuff is being revealed. And if you begin to protest here, then you're going to find out what the Star Spangled Banner's song, the full song, is about.
But are you really surprised?
No.
Yeah, because I wasn't.
I'm on no.
I used to
but
sing
most
it
people don't
at
even
the-
know.
at
And
the
they're like,
meet in
how
Maryland."
dare you not stand for this?
Right.
And it's like, no slave will make it out alive type stuff. Like, please go look up the entire lyrics of the... I really think that... Because even Trump said something... I don't like using his name, but... he said something like, what's next? Are we going to start to remove, such and such, like... George Washington thing or Thomas Jefferson type.
They're talking about the removal of the different statues for persons.
So where are we going to draw the line? And I think there's a revealing of how much toxicity and evil, and it's being revealed now how awful the state of what happened is, and things are having to be reevaluated because of that, right? So maybe we should look at the lyrics of the Star Spangled Banner and evaluate that, but it's a diversion, you know.
What's interesting, if I quote this correctly, I think that the person that drew attention to Kaepernick taking the knee was Trump.
The most, right?
Yeah.
The most.
Yeah.
But
And
then,
so in which case, of course,
but of course, he wants to divert attention to everything
right,
except
because
himself.
in the background, it's okay. Well, in the background, what are we doing with angels? Hey, Mike, I heard you took a knee. And that's what's really going on. And people aren't, because all they are sheeple. Many of his people are sheeple. And so he's saying it, we're going to do it too. And it doesn't become a problem for them until it becomes a problem for them, specifically them or someone in their family. We've all had, like the shooting in Las Vegas you're talking about the 50, I thought it was 59.
That was 59?
I think it was 59.
Wow.
515 injured, 59 dead or something along those lines. The worst massacre on U.S. soil, that type of thing. People get shot in masses often. I think the problem was that it was done by a white dude who's a millionaire, and he had the, I'm so sorry, and he had money, and they can't find motive, and they can't find these different things, and now there's all of this, right? It's going back the same thing with Trump. Everybody wants to glob, look at that, look what he did. So we're going to focus on that for a second. And it's real. It really happened. There are families that lost the person. I work with a guy who lost 5 people there, and he can't talk about it. Shoot, I lost my point. But we just ride the wave of whatever it is. And if right now, the guy that has the orange hair that wants to call himself our leader, if that's what it is that he's wanting to focus on, that's what everybody's going to focus on. Because his people are who are being heard.
I'm going to start to reel it in before I do. If there's any urgent comments that need to be said, I'm going to start reeling it in.
I want to talk about gentrification real fast. We're
not talking about gentrification. Well, we can have a whole show on gentrification, and then you can come back. I can't let you steer clear of but we will have an entire topic about it, and then we'll bring you for that specifically. Okay. Deal. Okay.
Just kidding.
Doggone it, now I'm like, where was I? Okay, so so I'm about to say a couple things that very few of you are going to look into, very, very few, but for those few that are going to look into it, I'm going to put it out there because I want y'all to study it and see what you think, because I'm just now getting hip to this. Throughout history, like from the beginning, there's been this concept called the scapegoat concept. Okay. And so what happens is a society uses a certain individual to put all their anger towards, and it unites them as a people, right? I have this theory that the orange one is specifically being used. Okay, we are at a high level of information now. We are quantifying the actions of humans into 0 and 1s, like, because they're seeing, okay, when we do this, all the sheep go this way. When we do this, all the sheep go that way. And our actions are being quantified. And that is able to really process how we will move psychologically, okay? Throughout all of history, I want y'all to look up scapegoat, how the scapegoat has been used throughout history. So when you have this knowledge about how a scapegoat can be used to maneuver society's opinion, wouldn't I groom one? Wouldn't I create one? So what I have, I'm a poet. I'm prone to conspiracy theories. Sometimes I think it's all conspiracy, no theory. The idea is that through us uniting under the umbrella of hating Trump, we'll begin to make right. See, the way that the trajectory that we're on right now, there's going to be a huge divide in this country, and the America that we know as we know it is going to fall apart. So if I were the power that be, I want to say that bees, but that doesn't work. If I would, I would not want to lose my power, and I would be thinking about strategies. I know this is really far fetched, but I'm just throwing it out there so you can look it up and see if it's possible. Because I don't know. This is just my theory. I wouldn't want to lose my power, so I would create a way that we all could unify together.
Okay.
I think it's just the opposite. A house divided is easily ruled.
Yeah.
Right. But that's already that's also taking place. So it is being divided, right?
And then these
but
over
then,
on this side are gathering together, and this on this side.
right. So that has its place
outliers.
in itself psychologically as well. That has its place in psychologically, because when there is a threat to your personhood, you exhaust all kinds of chemicals in your body that makes you fatigued to fight on anything else. That's why we have all these petty battles on Facebook. That exhausts your energy. All these threats and emotional responses depletes you, and you're like, why am I tired all the time? Because you're fighting petty battles with petty people, right? But also, in order to keep the entire system intact, I'm wondering if they are creating this dude for all of us to hate unanimously too, in a large pack, to create something else to keep the structure. Like, we are working at removing some of these things. It's a theory. I'm not saying that it's a perfect one.
I think that, to me, what that shows is the majority of your peer group is against, and so that's where that's coming from. And so it's all a matter of perspective, because I fight that battle with family members, with friends, with associates, with people I've known most of my life all the time.
You still have them supporting Trump?
Yes.
They're still supporting Trump?
Yes, and I'm going, okay, well, like, and they want to point out these things to me, and I'm going like, okay, but what about this? And what about this? Oh, well, yeah, but look at that. And so part of it might be the whole thing of, this is who I'm backing, and that's all there is to it, and don't want to change that platform. But, most of these people that I'm dealing with and trying to open eyes with is they're reasonable people. They if presented enough facts, they have changed their minds on other subjects. And so but I definitely still see that. And so my vast peer group, again, I'm from New Orleans. It's as multicultural as you can get. It's a melting pot. And so I still see the support there, and that's where I'm saying a house divided is easily ruled.
Oh, absolutely.
Because yes, they are unifying a segment of the population, but just as strongly as they're unifying that segment of the population, there's a whole other segment who has now taken these things that he said, the misogynistic things.
Right.
I know he says a lot of really stupid, insensitive things on a regular basis, and somebody need to take the man's Twitter and put some controls on it. But the whole thing of the race issues with him were never brought in until all of a sudden he ran for political office. And so you saw him in business with people of all ethnicities and all he's a businessman. He's not about to cut off his own foot. Like he was not out there shunning any demographic. If they were in for business, then he was in it with them. So then all of a sudden, when he became a political figure, all these things started being stated and said about him. And now I think that he does a lot to divide our country as far as down racial lines specifically. And you've got all these people who are standing up on one side and taking this white supremacist stance and feeling empowered, just like the misogynists that are out there who are taking this stance and saying that, if our president did it, it's okay. And so it's a very dangerous battle that's happening right now. And my stance is to try and explain to people, like, you don't see what he's doing and the feeling of empowerment that he's given these yodel heads that are out here who think it's acceptable to treat people that way. Like,
well, there's two things that need to happen. This is chess, not checkers, right? And so there's several things. You have to prepare the minds of America that if there was some kind of revolt or revolutionary type thing happening, you have people saying, you need to lock them up. They're dangerous, right? Like, you need to prepare the minds in that way as well. The scapegoat thing that I'm talking about, I'm just learning about it. It's hard for me to articulate what I'm trying to say on how it shapes the society's thought as well, to subdue. So look it up. Go look at how scapegoats have been used in society for a long time. It's really hard for me to articulate it, but it's multiple things going on at the same, but it's just as you said, to divide and conquer as well. It's to conquer, point blank. I literally have 5 minutes. I got to wrap it up. So the last thing I'm going to say is, just like how we said, sometimes I think that the entire thing of life is this right here, right? You look at monotheistic religions, the first two people according to monotheistic beliefs, they gave birth to Cain and Abel, right? The victim and the victimizer, right? And then the big question is, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? And at the end of the day, I think that that's what that boils down to, and you best not be caught riding the fence on that. This was a great discussion. I enjoyed it so much. I love you guys very, very much. And I love that we had the opportunity to share our talks with the people that are watching.
Absolutely.
So those of you who are tuning in, thank you so much. If you're watching or if you're listening, we will see you next time, or you will hear us next time, right? something like that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Intellectually engaging to think outside the lines with conversation about the nation that never leaves you blind. Take a listen and pay attention. Here is where you find the educational, sensational meeting of the minds. Yeah, it's the meeting of the minds. Meeting of the minds.